How y'all doing today? How's everybody's Sabbath so far? That's right. All praises. So today's lesson is called Israelite Signs and Markers from Africa to the Caribbean to the Americas. We're going to make it happen through the Spirit. First and foremost, we're going to start at Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37. But before we get into it, I just want to talk about what I usually been focusing on. A lot of people leave our 10 tribes brothers out of the blessing of God or the curses of God, and we're going to be talking about that heavy today. So we could go from there, and you can start at Deuteronomy 28 and 37, please.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee.
The Lord said we shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. No matter where we go, thank you. No matter where we go, we are going to be those things amongst all the people. Everywhere we put our foot, that's what we're going to be. An astonishment, a byword, and a proverb. And I wanted to look into certain racial slurs that people call us all around the world. And sometimes we might not hear certain ones, but I was very shocked by the certain slurs that's documented and put on the World Wide Web that people call us. So, and we also, when you're ready, you can go into that as well. This is newstaco.com. Top Latino racial slurs. I don't know if anybody seen little scripture. A little statue. This is outside of a lot of 10 tribe restaurants and whatnot. If you guys seen them before or not. Oh yeah, my bad. Okay, my bad. Thank you. All right, we in motion. Thank you, Lob. All right. Once again, this is from newstaco.com. Top Latino racial slurs. The Lord said we're going to be bywords, proverbs, and an astonishment before the whole world, everywhere we step our foot at. The first one, what we talk about on the streets, this is what they call our Latino brothers and sisters, our Native American brothers and sisters. They call them spics, call them greasers, grease balls, wetbacks, all these derogatory terms that they call us. And the Lord said that which was going to happen. This is what they call us. And I know some of these I've never seen before or never heard of. Maybe it's throughout the rest of the country or on the East Coast or wherever. But I know for sure a couple of these I've heard people call people spick, greaseball, wetback, mojado, beaner. That's very casual in the high school system when I was growing up, for sure. But these are the things that they call our Latinos, brothers and sisters, which the Lord said which will happen. They call us everything but the children of Israel. Everything but that. And that's for a reason. So yeah, let y'all soak on that real quick. We're gonna go to the next one, the little next slide. Let me know when you want to drop that knowledge you got out. This is another database that I was very surprised that this even existed. This is the Racial Slur Database. This is for all races all across the world, which is crazy, but the list is ridiculous. We're not gonna read them all, but I'm gonna show them all so everybody can see them. We got Amigo, Band, Bean Eater, Bean Bandit, which is crazy. Border Nigger, Border Bunny, Car Thief, Chico, Cherry Picker, all these bywords and proverbs, all these derogatory terms. Cheddar, which I don't know where that comes from. Fake Mexican, Fruit Picker, Garden Gnome, that's tough. I ain't never heard that one. That's crazy. Mestizo, Lowrider, Mule, Garden Gnome. The origin is they do all the gardening for rich white people. Yeah, that's crazy. This is what they call our 10 tribe brothers. So this is in a database online, which I never thought existed. Wow. all these things, and it's tough, but you know what? This is what the Lord said would happen to us. We disobey him. This is what's going to happen to us. We're going to get all these labels and all these names put on us. And it's unfortunate, but you know, this is what happens when you don't listen to the Father after you made an agreement. After you said you would do everything with you, we would do everything you said, and we said, you know, and we didn't follow through with it. So yeah, this is the racial slur database. This is a real life website, which I was very surprised that this was existed. So now we're gonna go to the next one, because I like to touch on Southern Kingdom and Northern Kingdom. Now we're going into Southern Kingdom, the quote unquote so-called blacks. We got 925. This is police code in suburban LA for suspicious person. That's tough. It says ace of spades. It says self-explanatory. That's messed up. Africoon. Where's that? Ashy. Aunt Jemima. Baboon. Beluga. Banjo lips. Bantu. These are all the, read it again, Can you read 37 again?
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37.
Uh-huh.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee.
No matter where you go on this earth, NBA players can go to China, football players can go to China, Philippines, no matter what, they're going to have a byword, they're going to have a proverb for you. They're going to have one of these words on the list. They're going to have it for you. Biscuit lip, black Barbie, black magic, Blackie Chan. I know I heard that growing up. Just a bunch of nonsense. Bounty bar. All these proverbs and derogatory terms, this is what happened to us. And this is speaking to it.
We call ourselves some of this stuff.
For sure. We clowning each other. We joking amongst each other. Can we get the elder a mic? You got to turn it on, Cognac. Yeah.
When I was growing up down in New Orleans, the white folks used to call Israelites, black folks, bottom of the pot.
Wow.
Shoe polish, all those kind of derogatory, to let alone, that four-letter word, nigga.
Right.
But bottom of the pot and shoe polish was very prevalent.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard those before, but that's unfortunate. But you know what? This is what the Lord said was going to happen to us. If we don't listen, if we don't hearken like we said we would, we're going to get called everything but the children of God. Everything but the children of God. So now we're going to go to our Native American brothers and sisters. We got to touch on it. Once again, this is the racial slur database. We got alcoholic, big red, the BFI, the big effing Indian, at the back of the bar you don't want to piss off, bow bender, cherry nigga, chief, chug, Cochise, not from the Warriors. Thinking about that, he might be 10 tribe too. Cochise was a bad man. Gas bag, gut eater, half a gas can, John Redcorn. That's from King of the Hill, great show. But yeah, John Redcorn. They got a bunch of things. Pow Wow, Redskin, Salmon Cruncher. All these things. And people exclude our 10 tribe brothers and sisters from the topic of being the children of God, but they fit the bill. They go through everything that we go through, and we're going to show that today. And they might have even went through it a little worse if we keeping it a whole buck. But
it just shows you how long, we've been oppressed and been getting punished for our sins, because we couldn't even look at a white woman or speak to a white man in a certain way at one point, but they had dominion for so long that they've been able to come up with all these names, derogatory names, because they can say and do as they please to us.
And that just shows you how much we're in their subjection. We got to go to them for everything, even the names, which is crazy.
If you look up astonishment in the Strongs, it's H8047 Sama. It says ruin, desolate, waste, and a wonderful thing. Because the us being ruined and us becoming desolate and wasted is a wonderful thing to our oppressors. That's why they come up with all these names, because it's a wonderful thing to them to embarrass us, use us, enslave us. And that's part of the astonishment, how people who are God's chosen people can be cherry niggers.
Right. It's an amazing thing for them to keep us away from our heritage, from our ethnicity, because that keeps them at the top longer. They get more time. They get more time in the light. The longer they keep us down, the more they call us by these words, is the further away we get from our true inheritance, our true understanding of who we are. So yeah, it's going to be a glorifying thing for them. They're going to rejoice off of all these things. They're going to take pleasure in it. But like the Lord says, you know, Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning that followeth. We got next. And thus saith the Lord.
To the point of the word byword.
Come.
You know how we call ourselves Black or Hispanic or Latino, etc. You know, if you look up the etymology of where the translation of byword is H8148 Shinana, and it means to install or implant, introduce, to hammer into and indoctrinate, brainwashing. So part of being a byword is actually calling yourself by what the people who rule over you calls you,
right? And
not knowing who you really are. After generations of slavery, we are brainwashed to call ourselves by what Esau calls us.
Right. These derogatory terms. We joke around in high school. I've been to like a little community college. I ain't been to no university, but I don't know how the culture is there. But I know for sure, high school, this is what goes on in the locker rooms and the little circles around lunchtime. All these jokes be going around for 4 years straight. This is what we call each other. Somebody come with a new joke every single day. A new derogatory term every single day. But yeah, let's go to the next slide. You want to
even ham, because it says wherever the nations, wherever the Lord shall lead, even ham, they call us cotton pickers.
For sure.
No matter where you go, the children of Israel are going to be called by proverbs.
For sure. I was looking up something last night, and Ham calls Jake was it akate? Something I can't remember what the word means. Sounds like cotton. Akate. So I can't remember what it means exactly, but I know Ham would say that against Jake for sure. That's tough. You see, so-called what is Ham? Our cousins?
I don't even.
But yeah, this is just a little slide for show. 50 things not to say to a black person, which I find kind of funny, but like, says this appearance. You're really pretty for a black girl, which is crazy. It says, are your lips real? You're like black. I know for sure a lot of brothers and sisters went through this. Can I touch your hair? Or they lunge in without asking. The hand. I don't like when people do that to my plate. Just reach before asking. That's madness. It says you're lucky to have a natural tan. I didn't realize black people could grow real eyebrows. That was madness when I read that. It says you're not black. You must be mixed with something because you're so light-skinned, which is crazy. Education, this kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I've dealt with this growing up a little bit. Says you speak so articulately. You're actually really smart. Like it's really like a slap in the face in retrospect. Who taught you how to speak English? You know so many words. Wow, you go into Oxford. Were you a diversity candidate? Wow. Are you first in your family to be educated? You don't sound black at all. Teach me some slang. And you don't sound black at all. That's really like, what is sounding black? What is that? Like, I grew up hearing that, like, oh, you're one of the good ones. Like, what the madness? We ain't got to go into too much, but that's just, if you guys want to look it up, read it on your own time. 50 things not to say to black people. Read the curse again, and we're gonna go. You can read into 38 as well.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. Verse 38. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it.
Come. So when we see this, we've noticed the first thing that comes to my mind is, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, but thou shalt gather little in. We was really putting in works on those slaves field, the cornfield, the tobacco field, the sugarcane field, the tobacco field. We were really doing everything, and we got nothing for it. We built this whole country, and we got nothing for it. We got killed, we got hung for even wanting to speak up or look in somebody's direction, or being too Mexican, being too uppity. These things have happened to us. We've labored in the slave field. Sometimes in the summertime, you would be there for what? Let's go to this one. Well, before I don't want to jump the gun. The main things that our people cultivated in the seeds that they were carrying out to the field was cotton, hemp, rice, tobacco, sugarcane. These were the main items of sale and the main things of harvest. This is what our people spent hours on hours on hours slaving for, so Esau can have a profit. This is what our people slaved for. We carried much seed out to the field, but we gathered little in. The Lord said it was going to happen, and it happened, and it happened on a billion dollar level. Now, I want to show what's the word I'm looking for? What was the conditions on the slave field? How many hours we were working, even in the winter? How many days did we get off? Things like that. So this is a website. It says slave labor, mountvernon.org. It says the enslaved population on Mount Vernon typically worked from the time the sun rose in the morning until the sun set in the evening. So they was working for 12, 13 hours straight, with about 2 hours off for meals in between. During the winter, slaves toiled for around 8 hours each day, while in the summer, the work days might have been long as 14 hours. Our people, our brothers and sisters, was working for 14 hours in the summer. Just imagine right now, it's 80 degrees outside? Just imagine you in the South, it's 100. You working for 14 hours straight, picking cotton, picking rice, and not getting nothing back from it. And going to do that for another 30, 40 years. And don't let your back give out, or don't let your knees give out, or don't let your hip give out. Then they might kill you. But the Lord said, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. You got the what the locust could mean? Because when I read this, I don't look at with this specific precept, I don't look at the locust as an actual animal. Well, Esau is an animal, but I don't look at it as an insect. I see it as a nation of people that oppressed us. They will consume everything that we put out, everything that we reap, we worked for. They're gonna take it from us, and they're gonna reap the benefits. Can you read that for me?
Locust is somewhat of a similitude. Locust referring to the Europeans.
Esau
swarm and destroy land,
Come.
yet alone are docile.
So what you was talking to me about, bring that out, because I love how you said it. When you were saying it was.
Oh yeah, locusts are grasshoppers. They're a form
Right.
of grasshoppers, and when they're alone, they're usually docile, and
Right.
they don't really affect anybody. Just like Esau. Now, if you catch Edomite by themselves, they're gonna be like, they're not gonna say much to you. But when they gang up and get together, they hop from place to place, swarming and destroying land. That's what they did to the Israelites in Mexico, Salvador, Nicaragua, Chile, Brazil, wherever they went. And a lot of times when they came on voyages with not a lot of people, they got pushed back.
Right.
And then they came with ships, and then they destroyed everybody, killed everybody.
Right. Overwhelming force. And we're gonna get into the actual nature of the actual locust in a little bit, but I love how we was talking over there, and the brother brought it out so brilliantly. I wanted him to bring that out. So can you read verse 30? I'm gonna say 30, 39 as well. Can you read that as well, please?
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 39. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them.
And we know that our 10 child brothers and sisters, a lot of them live off of the agriculture of grapes, avocados, tomatoes, lettuce, oranges. This is what they do. This is what they do, especially on the West Coast. This is how they live. This is how they survive. And we don't reap from the benefits, just like how verse 38 said. We're going to plant all these things and we're not going to reap nothing from it, because the worm and the locust shall eat them up. These detestable insects, also known, or the detestable Edomite, is going to reap all the benefits from our sorrow, from our hard work. And it's an unfortunate thing, but this is what the Lord said was going to happen to us if we disobey him, if we don't listen to his commandments. And this is what's happening right now, to this day. Our brothers and sisters working right now in the fields. And I was watching a video last night that the brother said he was imprisoned in Texas at 17 years old, and he was speaking about the 13th Amendment. I sent it to you on Facebook. He was speaking about the 13th Amendment, that slavery's outlawed unless you commit a crime. And he was in Texas. He was 17. The brother looked like he about 30 now. And he said right around the corner from the prison facility, he said there was acres and acres of cotton. This was a couple years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, not too long ago. The brother said the prisoners were out there picking cotton. And if you were out of order, they're allowed to shoot you. They're allowed to kill you. But if you were out of order, then sometimes they have a J come and beat you up, or they put you in this little metal box with a fence around it, and the sun's beaming down in the Texas heat, and you burning up in that little silver container. You cooking. The brother said that was living hell. But he was so shocked that he's actually picking cotton in the 21st century. Bring it out, Ak.
So this is from California. This is called Daily Beast. California's wine industry was built on slave labor. So nicknamed the Indian Indentured Act, which was in fact the very first legislation that the state passed, cruelly stripped California's Native Americans of most of their rights. It allowed any white man to identify a Native American as a vagrant, which goes back to the vagrancy laws that were put into place after so-called Juneteenth, when our Southern Kingdom brothers were freed from slavery, quote unquote, and then deemed vagrants so they can be taken back into slavery without calling it slavery. So Native Americans as vagrants, lazy or drunk, which would permit a marshal or sheriff to arrest and fine him. Since most Native Americans could not pay these fines, a week's worth of their labor would be auctioned off to the highest bidder, who would then pay the fines. The Native Americans couldn't protest against their treatment because the law also prohibited them from testifying against white men in court. Over the next 13 years, thousands of natives were arrested and sold.
That's a lose-lose. You can't win with that.
As a result, much of the work connected with the grape industry was done by natives, wrote Harris Newmark, a Prussian Jew who immigrated to Los Angeles. Let me go back down. Los Angeles, which was the heart of California's wine industry in the 1850s, passed its own more onerous law to ensure winery owners had the staff they needed to cultivate the vines. Not only could any lawman arrest an inebriated Native American and put him to work in a chain gang, they got a $1 kickback for every 8 men they arrested.
They was rounding Jakes up, arresting them, didn't have the power or the law to fight back legally in the Americas, and then they would have them picking in the winery. They would have them picking grapes. And every 8 Native Americans you gather, you get $1 for it. If that ain't oppression, I don't know what is, honestly. What website was that at? Just in case people want to look that up for themselves.
It's called thedailybeast.com.
Thedailybeast.com. We're going to go to you got anything else? All right, for sure. Let's go to the next precept. And this next one, go for it.
Okay, wait, I do have a little
Okay.
more. Once the winemakers had purchased their labor for the week, they only had to lead the Native Americans, who were frequently chained together, a short way to the vineyards. There were about 125 vineyards in Los Angeles. So you got to understand, in 1850, there were Native Americans in Los Angeles chained together in the vineyards. So that's a cut to all the Negro only people, because in the 1850s, the Native Americans was in chains doing slave labor.
Man. And we're going to get into it even in the
That's a little more.
1500s.
So many that the Pueblo earned the nickname the City of Vines. Many were clustered around the Los Angeles River or in plots around the city. One area near Aliso Street became known as Frenchtown because so many Frenchmen were cultivating vines around there. At the end of a week, the vineyard owners would often pay the Native Americans in cash or aguardiente, a high alcohol fortified wine, therefore assuring the cycle of indentured servitude would be repeated.
Got paid in bread or
Because the
liquor.
crime was to be inebriated.
Right.
So they paid them in alcohol to inebriate them,
To get
then
them
they
to
would just
work more.
rearrest them, and then
More work.
so it's just this whole cycle of slavery.
Madness. And this happened in the 1850s.
1850.
1850s. Like you said, this is a cut to all the Negro onlys that think Hispanics and Native Americans are not Israelites, but the history and the prophecy and the scriptures say different.
I got one more.
Go for it.
Okay, so when did the Southern Kingdom come to the Americas in slavery?
When did Southern
Yeah,
Kingdom?
yeah.
1619. That's
Okay.
when the first one was.
This is repartimiento, a labor system that allowed countries ruled by Spain, such as Mexico and Peru, to force local indigenous people to work in the mines or on ranches and plantations. It first began around 1499.
Wow. 1499. That's what, 7 years after Christopher Columbus came over? 7 years. Almost what, 200 years? Almost 200 years, 100 years before Jake came over here from the west coast of Africa and landed in Virginia. 120 years. 120 years of indentured servitude our Hispanic brothers dealt with, on top of what came after. Crazy. Read verse 40, and this is what we're going to show. We're going to show a couple videos, a couple quick clips, but I want to dive into this because I found this to be madness.
Okay, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 40. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coast, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit.
So the Lord said we anointed ourselves with oil, but us today, especially in the Christian church, the Catholic church, we resulted to different things of anointment, and we went away from anointing ourselves with oil. We went into laying hands on each other, not literally physically fighting, but I'm gonna grab you out. I'm gonna grab you. we would do this to our brothers and sisters. A lot of pastors would grab each other's head and start yelling and stuff. Madness. Where's that in the scriptures? Where does the Lord say, grab your fellow brother's head and scream? The Lord don't say that. This is all the traditions of man. We also have other things, serving idols, or like the Catholic Church does, they bless you before you come into the church with holy water. What does the Lord say? Do that. Now we're gonna bring out certain videos showing what we just displayed and showing you how far people have gone. This is TD Jakes. You go there. And once again, read verse 40 for me again, please.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 40. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts,
Uh-huh.
but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil,
Okay.
for thine olive shall cast his fruit.
Instead of anointing ourselves with the oil, we let TD Snakes, that's my brother Lob, say, anoint us and touch us with his sweaty hand. And he's screaming and doing all this madness. And let's get into it.
Taking it too far now. He has moved from having Tyler Perry, a man.
Uh-oh.
TD Jakes has taken it too far now. He has moved from having Tyler Perry, a man who dresses like a woman, lay
Ain't
hands
it?
on him for $1 million, to now going around laying hands on people from. TD Jakes has taken it too far now.
I'm gonna go to YouTube real quick. I really want to get this. Okay, my bad. My bad. Here it is. All right. Let's see. This is the video I wanted.
Stay the night. Little while longer.
TD Jakes is a false prophet.
This is what we resulted to. A man yelling, holding my head. Michael Jordan me. That's madness. You're gonna hurt somebody doing that. But this is what we resulted to. We resulted going away from the Lord's commandments, telling us how we anoint ourselves, things that we need to do to consecrate ourselves towards him, but we went away from it and we go to this. Crazy. I'm gonna show it one more time.
You run to. Stay the night. Little while longer.
TD Jakes is a false prophet. There's no doubt about.
He's right. TD Jakes is a false prophet, but this is the madness our people come to. This is what we've came to. Can you bring James 5:14 out, please? Yes, sir.
It's the book of James, chapter 5, verse 14.
Uh-huh.
Is any sick among you?
Okay.
Let him call for the elders of the church,
Okay.
and let them pray over him, anointing him with the oil in the name of the Lord.
Okay. This is for when we have sick among our nation. The Lord is saying, if you have anyone sick among your nation, anoint him through the elders of your groups. The Lord didn't say grab him and yell on his head and do all types of madness and get the sickness out of him. No, the Lord said anoint yourself with oil. But we can't do that anymore because we disobeyed the Most High God. We went away from his commandments. We went away from his customs, and we went into traditions of men. And this is where we've fallen short as a nation of people. We put the Bible down and listen to men that I believe TD Jakes knows the scriptures, but he's willfully showing our people the way to hell instead of showing them the way to righteousness. And this is what we have to deal with, and this is what we combat every day. But we look into the scriptures and we see hope, and we see the end, and know that we won already. We just need to finish. We just need to go through the battle. And that's the beautiful thing about serving the Most High God. The battle's over. The war is won already. We just need to win the battle. And that's the beautiful thing about this. So we're gonna go to the next video. You got anything to say?
Well, like it says, the olive trees throughout all the coasts. And if you look up anything about olive trees, they grow in sunny, like Mediterranean like climates,
Right.
like California, You know, it's just like the coast, hot places. You look at everywhere where Esau have came and touched the coast, whether it be Puerto Rico, you know, California, gold rush, everything, everywhere, all those lands, those prime lands with fertile land were taken from the children of Israel, and we gain nothing of those places anymore.
Right. We don't have that accessibility anymore. Now, I want to speak on the second part of what I was saying. We like to lay hands on each other. We like to serve idols, but we also go into this custom of the holy water. And I saw this video to be fascinating because the sister brought out scriptures, but when I looked the scriptures up, she was using them in the wrong context. And we're going to break that down to show you that ideology is wrong. And what she's doing is she's using the scriptures in the wrong context, and she's not doing the right thing. And just want to show you how far people have gone away from serving the Lord and doing what he asked us to do. Well, not ask us to do, what he commanded us to do. I'm going to show the video and we're going to break it down again.
No. No, 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 no. Exactly. No.
I'm going to stop on the second point so we can look at the scriptures. So she's saying the awareness of baptism, you dip your hand in the water, you do the little cross thing, to acknowledge that you're in the house of God. But she's using these scriptures out of context, and I've looked them up, and I was kind of like laughed at it, and I left a comment as well. But we're going to break it down. So can you give me Leviticus 14 and start from 49 and go to 52, and we're going to see what it's talking about. Because she's referring to holy water. And she used these scriptures out of context, but she has no idea what the scriptures are talking about.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 14, verse 49.
Hold on, let me get there real quick. Hold on, my bad. Yeah, 14 to 49 through 52, please.
Leviticus chapter 14, verse 49.
Uh-huh.
And he shall take to cleanse the house 2 birds, and cedar wood, and scarlet, and hyssop. And he shall kill the one of the birds in the earthen vessel over running water.
That running water, I believe she's assuming that it's holy water, but keep going on, and we're going to see what the context of this scripture is talking about.
Verse 51. And he shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet and the living bird and dip them in the blood of the slain bird and in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, and with the living bird, and with the cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the scarlet.
So she's taking this verse and seeing that the running water, and she's comparing that to entering into the Catholic Church, which is that's a reach. That's a huge reach. But let's get Leviticus 14 and 33 to see the context of what the Lord is talking about, why you do this ceremony, this ritual. Go for it.
This is the book
Read
of
the
Leviticus.
verse 35, please.
This is Leviticus chapter 14, verse 35.
So 33 to 35.
Leviticus 33 and 35?
Yeah, Leviticus 14, 33 to 35.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 14, verse 33. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when ye be come into the land of Canaan, which I give to you for a possession, and I put the plague of leprosy in a house of the land of your possession, and he that owneth the house shall come and tell the priest, saying, it seemeth to me there is, as it were, a plague in the house.
So the Lord said, when you go into the land of Canaan and you see the possessions and you see the house and it's plagued with leprosy, you shall go to the priest. And verse 49 through 52 is what you're going to be doing in the house. You're cleansing the house of leprosy. You're not, what are we doing? This ain't got nothing to do with the Catholic Church. This has everything to do with clearing the house of leprosy when you go into the land of Canaan. That's all it's talking about. So that's strike one. The sister's using the scripture out of context. And we doing this for edification purposes. Lord willing, she watches it. So we go to Numbers chapter 19, verse 18, please.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 19, verse 18. And a clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water
There go that water again.
and sprinkle it upon the tent
Uh-huh.
and upon all the vessels
Mm-hmm.
and upon the persons that were there, and
Okay.
upon him that toucheth a bone,
Okay.
or one slain,
Okay.
or one dead, or a grave.
So this is let's get to verse 11. We read verse 11, please, and we're gonna show the context of what's going on.
Verse 11, he that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days.
So this is what the Lord's talking about. You get that water to purify yourself from touching a dead body. And once again, we are talking about the curse of Deuteronomy, but we have to clear up the confusion of what people are using holy water and laying of hands and the serving of idols. They have it mixed up. The Lord said we're supposed to anoint ourselves with oil. And we're cleansing ourselves with water, but from specific things. Read that again and read down to 12, please.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 19, verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days.
7 days.
He shall purify himself with it.
Uh-huh.
On the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, he shall be clean.
Right.
But if to purify not himself the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean.
So the Lord said, if you touch a dead body on this 3rd day of the you have a 7-day period, but on the 3rd day you clean yourself. You are clean until the 7th day. You clean yourself with that water. And verse 18 reiterates that. If you touch a bone or a slain or a dead or a grave, that's what will make you unclean. But the Lord said, within that 7-day period, on day 3, you shall be clean. Not entering to a church, dipping your hand in water and calling you and announcing yourself into the house of God, because that ain't the house of God. So my last one before we go to the next precept, Numbers 5 and 17, clearing up the misconception, the miscommunication of what this sister informed people on the internet.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 5, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall take.
Okay, so now that we get a little glimpse of what the Lord is talking about, when you read down from verse 11 to verse 17, we're not going to do that for the sake of time. The Lord is talking about when a man lies with a woman carnally and she's married and she hides it from her husband's eyes. This is the ritual of jealousy to find out unfaithfulness. This has nothing to do with going into the church and dipping your hand in some water and anointing yourself or consecrating yourself. This is about the law of jealousy to uncover faithfulness. This is what the Lord's talking about right here in Numbers chapter 5, verse 17. Just to clear that up. Anybody wants to read that on their own spare time? Numbers chapter 5, verse 11 through 17 talks about what the Lord's talking about, shows what the Lord's talking about, the law of unfaithfulness. So now let's go back to Deuteronomy, and we're going to speak on verse 41. You have anything else to add? No worries if you don't. You can keep it player. Okay.
Good.
Can you read verse 41?
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 41.
Uh-huh.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
The Lord said we're going to have sons and daughters. We're going to bear children, but we're not going to enjoy them because they're going to be stripped away from us. They're going to be sold to another people. And I wanted to read this because this precept connects to a lot of other curses. And I want to try to get different articles to switch it up to keep you guys up on information. So this is the website of gatheringforjustice.org. This is the history of family separation. It says slavery from 1501 to 1865. It says the United States often split enslaved black families and sold to other slave owners, leaving families torn apart and some never reuniting. And that was the cold truth about when you get split from your parents or your parents are taken away from the child, you probably never going to see each other again. You know, the son gets taken away from the mom at 5-6 years old, and you see it in 20 years past. You're not going to be able to recognize them. You're going to be a grown man. You're going to be a grown woman. You're not going to notice what your child looks like. You're not going to notice what your parents look like. And that's one of the worst things that they've done to us, is take our kids away from us, take our parents away from us. And that left mental scars, and that left abandoned issues passed down from generation to generation. It says this practice was intentionally used to punish enslaved people by selling their family members to plantations far away. This is what they used. They did this for fun. If you was acting up, you was in Virginia, you gonna get sold to Alabama. You gonna get separated by hundreds and thousands of miles. This is what they did to punish us. And they didn't only do it to Southern Kingdom, they also did it to Northern Kingdom, but they did it in a different way. They did it as boarding schools. I was looking up a lot of other things, but nothing was really sticking. So I stick to the boarding schools that our 10 Child brothers were forced to assimilate and become like the heathen, pretty much. It reads, boarding schools were created to force assimilation onto indigenous people. Kill the Indian, save the man was the ideology behind boarding schools. While in these schools, Native children were forced to take on American names, clothing, and hairstyles. All Native languages were outlawed, and people were forced to practice Christianity. Madness. It says 25 to 35% of children were removed from their parents' care, 85 of which were removed completely from their communities. So you removed from your parents' care, or sometimes you were removed from your community, shipped to a different place of the world, different place of the state, different place of the country. This is what happened to our Native American brothers and sisters.
And can I add to that
Of
too?
course.
When you're being shipped via slave trade, via ship somewhere else, they're not taking into consideration who's family and who's not.
For sure.
They might drop you off in the west coast of the United States and take your son to Jamaica.
For sure. To never be seen again. And because of this assimilation and this boarding school phenomenon, this has led to Native Americans being 2.7 times higher in the adoption rate, or in foster care, higher than any other population on the earth, just because of this one thing that happened to us, which is crazy. It shows you how far you can make a little shift in history, and it can pan out into utter madness throughout the history, throughout future. So we're gonna go to the next slide. And I find this to be interesting. The website is npr.org. It says piercing together stories of families lost in slavery. I'm gonna read a couple of them, and then we're gonna go to the next slide. Can you read the precept again for me, please? Verse 41.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 41. Thou shalt begot sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
And the main word that I see is that you shall not enjoy them. It's a joy to see your child grow up to be a man or become a woman and bear children and see them just grow old. You know, Esau robbed that from us. Even they do it today. You know, your child becomes 16, 17, gets caught up in the legal system. You don't see him until he's 30 or 40 years old. They still do it today, but they did it differently back then. And we're gonna read into it. Once again, this is piercing together stories of families lost in slavery. The book is called Help Me to Find My People. Reading from it from personal accounts. It says, for decades, slavery tore apart African-American families. Children were sold off from their mothers and husbands were taken from their wives. Many desperately tried to keep track of each other, even running away to find loved ones. After the Civil War and emancipation, these efforts intensified. Free slaves posted aids in the newspaper and wrote letters seeking any clue to a family member's whereabouts. So they was begging and pleading, trying to find your loved one. Imagine your mama gets stripped from you at 7 years old, at 13 years old, and you don't know what's going on. And when you get of age or you become a free slave, you go finding her and you can't find her. That's on your mind for the rest of your life, I can imagine. So now we're gonna read a couple interviews from the book, firsthand accounts. It says, what I found was that often they said, as a young child, I have no idea that I was a slave. I just didn't know. I was a child playing in the yard, maybe doing some chores, some small chores, excuse me. And then it was at the moment that an owner died, or when the enslaved people got the word that an owner was deeply in debt, that the people in the slave courts in the small slave community on the plantation began to worry and cry. It began to worry and cry because they know what's coming, that especially the elders, somebody's about to go. You know, somebody's about to get split up. It says the adults were having these conversations about what would happen. Who will be sold? Would a mother be sold with her child? Would the father be sold with them? So they were contemplating these things. These are the conversations that was going on because they knew this is what was happening. And the Lord said it was happening as well. So we're going to have sons and daughters, but we're not going to enjoy them because they're going to go into captivity. You're going to be born in Alabama and sent to Virginia. You're going to be born in Virginia and sent to Tennessee. You know, you're going to be born in Virginia, Tennessee and sent to Texas. You know, all these things were going to happen to us, and they did happen to us. And this is firsthand accounts from people talking and being passed down. And it says, so the children began to realize through this impeding separation that they were slaves, and that being a slave meant that you could be sold. So these are little children realizing that they're in captivity, that this is a possibility from the conversations of the adults, that it's a possibility we could be moved any moment in our lives. We could be sold to a different place without our mom and without our father, without our siblings, without our cousins, without our aunties and uncles, without grandma and grandpa. We could be sent somewhere else to start a brand new life of servitude. It says this pathos it's profound. They describe scenes of separation in which the mother just throws herself on the ground. She's begging an owner or a trader to keep her with her child, or just let me even one of my children. So imagine you have 4 or 5 kids. They splitting everybody up. That's crazy. I got 3 brothers. I couldn't imagine us being youngins and social services coming and taking us apart from each other. I wouldn't know how to act. But just imagine back in slavery in Texas and Alabama and Florida and Virginia, there's no law to protect you. There's nothing that can fight against you. You know, fight for you, excuse me. It's just that if the slave master was in debt, or he was down on his luck, or he owed somebody, hey, you're his property. So guess what? You're the next one up. And that happened throughout our history in so many things. And also I found this article to be very interesting. If you guys do want to read it, it's talking about how they made laws so that we couldn't be married, because if a man and woman was married, you couldn't separate them. So they made laws to stop that. And they kept a very close eye on it, so they can be able to sell your wife or sell a woman's husband anywhere they please or anywhere he's needed. Once again, this is the NPR.org. You guys can look it up. If you guys want to get the book, Help Me to Find My People. Just let you guys know. Now we're going to watch another video. We're going to go from there. So this is how the U.S. stole thousands of Native American children, to speak on the boarding schools, what they did. And this is also firsthand accounts from our beloved 10 Tribe brothers and sisters. Read the precept one more time for me, brother.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
So they shall go into captivity. You're not going to enjoy your children. Now we're gonna play this next video.
I was adopted by a white missionary couple.
I was adopted.
Immediately placed for adoption.
I was in foster care with one family for 18 years. They were white.
My parents loved us, and I understand that, but at the same time,
they took the idea that they were saving
us from ourselves.
Being saved, and I should be grateful for the life that I've been given, because any child on the reservation would give anything to live as I was living.
They took us away from our mom. They came marching right in and literally took us and thousands of other children from their home.
It's a way to eradicate us. And to go to a nation's children is one of the sure ways to do that.
We're not going to watch the whole thing, but if you guys want to, those are personal accounts of 10 Tribe brothers and sisters that were taken away from their families' homes, from the boarding schools, and adopted into white families, and they tell their story. If you guys want to watch that, how the U.S. stole thousands of Native American children. This is on Vox YouTube channel. If you guys want to watch, I just want to show the first couple minutes. But yeah, this really happened. Taken away from your families and say you have a better life here instead of on a reservation. You know, anybody will give up their spot for this. It's madness. I wouldn't, as a child, I wouldn't want to leave my parents and go to a damn alien's house. I wouldn't want to do that, no matter how bad it is. I'd rather struggle with my family than be good with you. You know, because I know that there's love there, but who knows what could be going on? You know, white people, they some freaks. Yeah, we about to go to the next one, but they some diabolical demons. We could read the Lord tells us about that. You know, they the most profane fornicator. Can you get that Hebrews 12:16, please? You know, because just imagine being taken from your family, going to the pale-faced peoples, and then they got dogs sleeping in the beds, they got all this wild stuff. Nobody changing out the bath water. It's just madness.
It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
So the Lord is saying, least there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. The Lord's putting him at the top of the top for the profane and most vile person on the earth. That's Esau. That's always been his thing. When Rata was bringing out the 13 tribes, I need to get that book. I was shocked. We was outside laughing about it, but Kalab was like, they was wearing drawers until the strings was just there, which is madness. You bathe once a year. That's crazy. Feet black as, my bad. The feet dark as hell. It's just going off. But the Lord said, least there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. The Lord is saying Esau is the most detestable person on this earth. Profane and disgusting. Nobody tops him. The shit he do over and over again, and especially just imagine you being a 10-year-old stripped from your parents, sent to live with an alien, the original illegal immigrant. So, but I digress.
To add to that point, to look at it another way too, verse 41, when it says you shall not enjoy them, you know, just taking the man out of the household, you're not going to enjoy your children because you're not there. And then if you go to Isaiah 3:12, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the ways of thy past. So when you take the man out of the house, he's not going to enjoy his children, especially with the sons. The women are not going to be able to raise them properly, especially in this society today. So the children a lot of times become the oppressors to their own mothers. You know what I mean? And she's not going to enjoy her children if they're prostituting on Fed,
right?
Gang banging, getting shot, going to prison. She's not going to enjoy them. He's not even going to know them. So that's another, you know, flip side of that curse.
Man, I was trying to find the name of the slave. I ran across this morning, actually. But basically, it was a slave that I was reading about who he was very tall, strong. His family was known for being very intelligent and just to pick up on things naturally. So they made the son to be kind of like a slave breeder, right? But they said that they will pass him around to different nearby plantations in order to impregnate the other slaves, because all his kids was coming out intelligent, big, and strong. Right. They said by the time that the slave passed away, he had 200 kids. Damn. And they used all those kids, you know, for their benefit, because they was like, man, these kids is picking up on everything. Right. And you know, we tell them to do this, they intelligent, and they was getting everything down. But I just thought that was an interesting story, and it just shows you how Esau will use you for his benefit,
for sure,
regardless.
And then once again, the downfall of that, those kids fall into the curses as well. For first and foremost, they'll never know their father. First and foremost, and then also their father won't enjoy them. The father won't know them. The children won't know their father. He going around from state to state, province to province, being a breeder. There ain't no life to live. Come on now. And look, some brothers might glorify that, but nigga, that that don't sound like a great life. Like, you ain't got no rest. You just keep it a buck. Sex is a strenuous thing. Like 200 kids, that's work. I ain't gonna lie, that's work. You said what? Come on, bring it out. Who got one?
So again, before we jump, thou shalt be, verse 41, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. So when you're constantly at war with Esau, he's spreading his diseases and trying to enslave you. You're never going to enjoy your children. And when you lose that fight because you don't have the Lord with you, you're going to go into captivity. So I want to read something I got from Wikipedia. It says in Nicaragua in 1519, Chortega, these are the Chortega, Nicaragua, Sabadai, Matagalpa, Tacacho. These are all the indigenous tribes of Nicaragua. So Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba, and that's another cut. These are all Spanish people. So our so-called Latino brothers need to stop getting all these names tattooed on their bodies, because it's the name of it's just like getting branded. Right. It's a slave owner's name. Took Western Nicaragua, where Spanish activity was concentrated. Within a century of conquest, the native inhabitants had been all but eliminated due to war, disease, and exportation of slaves. Right. So our 10 tribe brothers in Nicaragua were getting exported as slaves in 1519.
In 1519, 100 years before First Jake was landed in Virginia. 100 years before. So once again, to my brother Deshaw's point, to all you Negro onlys, this is the proof right here. You can look it up. You know, stop hating your brother, honestly, at the end of the day. But we're gonna keep pushing, we're gonna keep it pushing. Verse 42. Can you read that for me, please, sir?
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 42. And thy trees and thy fruit of thy land shall the locust consume.
Con. So now remember what we talked about. The locust, the Lord speaks, everything he speaks is double fold. So right here, the locust can be the Edomite. But what I found interesting, that all the trees and all the fruits of thy land, the locust shall consume. I looked up certain parts of the world. Locusts traveled in swarms and they consumed parts of Africa. They consumed parts of Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. They were destroying these places in a matter of days. But we're going to read into it and we're going to show what locusts actually are, what they eat, what they look like, how big they can get, just so we can get a visual picture in our mind. This is Orkin, little bug company. It says locust diets. Locusts consume leaves and tender tissue of plants. They are strong flyers as adults and tenacious hoppers as nymphs. Large swarms of locusts are completely stripped. Large swarms of locusts can completely strip the foliage and stems of plants such as forbs and grasses. So especially if they travel in groups, they can knock out a whole farm in a matter of minutes, maybe an hour. You know, just imagine 100,000 of them, 500,000 locusts flying through your city. Your vegetation is gone. Everything is gone, and it takes seasons. It takes a year for things to grow. So just imagine that. The Lord said, all the trees and the fruit of thy land shall the locusts consume. If these locusts pull through, they come through California and hit the wine country, people finna go crazy, especially the Edomites. They wine gone. Oh, World War III might start right there. Keep it a buck. But we're gonna go into how big they are and how what they look like. So it says desert locusts can grow about to 4 inches long and live 3 to 5 months. Their life cycle consists of 3 phases. So those are desert locusts. I looked up other ones. Some of them, the smallest they could get maybe 2 inches. They're just grasshoppers that are strong flyers. They could fly across the ocean and all this and all that. But just imagine though. Look at that. Boy, I'd be terrified. I ain't gonna lie. Imagine 100,000 of these. Really? Speak on it. My brother
It's
just
a locust swarm in the high desert right now.
crazy.
Like, when I go outside my job, they just
everywhere.
Hitting your car, everything. Yeah.
And they not harmful to humans, but they destroy the agriculture. They destroy what we eat. They destroy what our animals eat. So it's a very big thing that the Lord said he's going to send this upon us if we don't listen. This is a major thing, because if they eat up our greens, they eat up of our vegetation, what are our animals going to eat? What are we going to eat? But just imagine 500,000 of these, 100,000 of these flying around, 4-inch long grasshoppers. Well, I don't know if y'all seen the movie. I think it was called Birds or something like that. When the birds was attacking the town and killing people. This is what this remind me of. Some crazy stuff. A 4-inch long grasshopper come and destroy your town, and you can't do nothing about it. That's madness. That's crazy. But look, that's the wrath of the Lord, and that's a light thing. That's a light thing. Yeah, you can eat them. They lawful, but I'll pass. All right. At my old job, 10 Tribe had them with salt and pepper. I'm like, I'm good, bro. Yeah. Brother said everything lawful ain't expedient. He right. I'm good. That's dire need. I'm good. I got food in the refrigerator. So look, and what I was talking about, the locusts came from the west coast of Africa, from Nigeria, and they traveled across the water, and they was in Argentina, and they was in Brazil, and they was in Uruguay, tearing up South America. We're gonna read into it. Just look at that. You step on, I'm pretty sure you got a crunch to them too. That's crazy. So it says Brazil, and this is from BBC.com. It says Brazil and Argentina are monitoring the movement. This is in 2020 as well. This is Brazil and Argentina are monitoring the movement of a large swarm of locusts, which have been eating its way through the crops in the region. And Brazil is huge as well. Just imagine if Brazil's agriculture gets knocked off. You know, Chile's agriculture, Uruguay's agriculture gets knocked off. It says the insects, which can cover a distance of 150 kilometers, 93 miles in the day, have already traveled from Paraguay to Argentina, and it's feared Brazil and Uruguay could be next. So they span 93 miles long of feasting on your vegetation. That's a wide space of destruction. 93 miles of no food, gone. Your vegetation gone, your grass is gone, your trees are gone, your grapes, your tomatoes, your corn. Everything's gone. Cabbage, lettuce, onions, everything's gone. But the Lord said it happened. He said, all thy trees and the fruit of thy land shall the locusts consume. And this happened in Africa, especially on the West Coast. They're dealing with that right now to this day. Happening to the, you want to speak on it, sister? Or I never heard of that. Nah. Well, when they were saying the world was going to end when they were seeing all that. You pass her the mic, please, y'all.
Yeah, but they also call them the Locusts too. They had another in, I think the one you're talking about is 2022.
Speaking to the mic, sister, you speak on.
Here. I'm talking about the one in Vegas.
Speak on the one in Vegas.
The one that they had a locust invasion in Las Vegas in 2019.
Yeah, that's tough. Ain't nothing out there in Vegas either. I don't know what they was eating on. You ready for the next precept? Can you read 43 and 44? So yeah, the Lord did say, all the trees and the fruits of thy land shall the locusts consume. And it's happening in brothers' hometown, happened in Vegas, it's happened where our brothers and sisters are dwelling at, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Brazil, and Argentina, happened in the west coast of Africa, where the children of the diaspora are still dwelling. It's happening all across the world. We should be grateful it hasn't happened in LA, because just imagine them little things getting Whole Foods, y'all little grocery stores, the little gardens that we be planting. They span 93 miles. That swarm spanned 93 miles of destruction. And we got to be grateful. All praise to the Most High. They don't hurt people, because just imagine. Well, we got to get flamethrowers and all that, because it's going down. And we got to get something.
To speak on Uruguay, you said the grasshoppers went to Uruguay. The history of Uruguay, the Spanish discovered the territory of present-day Uruguay in 1516, but the natives' fierce resistance to conquest, combined with the absence of gold and silver, limited the settlement in the region during the 16th and 17th centuries. So because it wasn't as a rich port like Puerto Rico, the Esau kind of backed up. Right. But the Locusts still, over the 3 centuries, continued to swarm. And the original population of Chura natives was gradually disseminated over 3 centuries, culminating in 1831 in a mass killing at Saspuedes led by General Fructuoso Rivera, Uruguay's first president. So even with the resistance and the pushback, eventually, the locusts consumed everything,
consumed the whole land. And I was talking, me and Deshaun was talking about this last night, but I talked to Iram about this when we was going to street teaching, that a lot of our 10 tribe brothers and sisters got Hernandez, Chavez, Lopez, Cortez, Dominguez, all these Spanish last names, just the same as us. Our last names is Jones, Washington, Johnson, Brown. All these, we're the same people, and we proud of it. But the Europeans come from the same place. One comes from England, one comes from Spain. They the same people. They just distant relatives. They got different last names, and they came to conquer the children of Israel, and we took their last name, just like how our brothers took the slave masters' last names. Chavez and Gonzalez ain't Hispanic. That's Spanish. Ain't Mexican. That ain't a Mexican last name.
But they don't know the history, Malak.
True, but just when we was talking about it, hit me. I'm like, damn, we really go through the same things. Just from a different area, people spread 50, 100 miles away from each other, maybe even more than, I don't know the distance between England and Spain, but you know what I mean. These people came from different lands, conquered the same people, made us turn our back to each other, taught one people Spanish, taught the other people English, and we became enemies. And it's sad, but this is what happens. Yeah, go for it, Doc.
This is the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. So because we rejected the knowledge of the Most High and sinned against him, he allowed us to be destroyed and lack knowledge of who we are. So we are proud to be Hernandez and Cortez and Washington,
Brown, Jones.
Get it tattooed.
Get it blasted.
Big. Southern Kingdom get it all across their back.
Sure. On the back of their head, everything. But I want you to read verse 4 and 4 and 6 and verse 7 as well. But start from verse 6, because a lot of people don't read the verse 7. Verse 7 is crazy.
Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children.
And that's the cold part. The Lord said, if you forget my laws, I'm going to forget your children. I'm not going to be your covering. I'm not going to be your blessing. Your kids are going to be taken away from you. You're not going to enjoy them. They're going to go into captivity. The Lord said, I will forget your children. But keep going.
Verse 7, as they were increased, so they sinned against me. Therefore will I change their glory into shame.
The Lord changed our glory into shame. The things that we glorify, those are abominable, sinful things now. But the Lord told us this, and a lot of people skip over verse 7, or they don't read verse 7. But verse 7 is just as powerful as verse 6. And I just wanted to touch on that real quick. But we could go back to Deuteronomy. We almost out of here. And this is probably the one with the most information on it, but this one's probably the one that stood out the most because it's so much compacted into these just 2 verses that it was kind of hard to get the right thing. But through the Spirit, through the power of the Most High God, we got it rolling. Can you read 43 and 44, please?
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 43 and 44. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
Okay.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
So when the Lord says the stranger, we know that the stranger is the other nations. You know, it can also go back to the time when we left Egypt. But how I like to look at it, the strangers are Psalms 83, all those people in Psalms 83, the Edomite, the Hagarenes, the Amalek, you know, Ishmael. Those are the strangers because those are the people that dwell around us today. Those are the people that dwell amongst our neighborhoods and we have to drive through to get to work, or, you know, we going for a night out on the town. Those are the people we have to deal with, interact with when we're out in the world. So those are the strangers and these are the people that got above us very high. But I want to start from the beginning, how they got above us very high and what transpired to get them above us. So now we're on National Geographic. This is about 10 tribe when the original legal immigrants, Esau, came to the Americas. What did 10 tribe help them with? What did they do to help them survive the winter? What did they do to show them how to live off the land? Because we was here already. So I'm gonna read it. It says both sides benefited from the trade bartering system established by the Native American peoples and the colonists. The Native Americans provided skins, hide, food, knowledge, and other cultural crucial material and supplies. So the 10 tribes showed them how to live. They showed them how to live off the land. They showed them how to survive the winter. They gave them skins. They gave them hides. They gave them food. They gave them knowledge. Oh, the water's over there. You got to go past the mountain. Got to do this and that. Or the winter starts in a couple months. You got to do this. You got to, dig a specific hole. You got to layer your tent a certain way. They were giving them crucial information that will eventually backstab them, which I don't think our people understood because we're so loving people and we're trusting people. But like the scripture says, he had war in his heart. Esau had war in his heart from the beginning. Come on, bring it out, please.
This is Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy. For like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away.
The Lord said, never trust them. The thing that 10 tribes should have did was right when they hopped off that boat in Virginia with smiles and hands, they should have got busy. But look, prophecy had to be fulfilled. The Lord said, it says the Native Americans provided skins, hide, food, knowledge, and other crucial materials and supplies, while the settlers traded beads and other currencies. So we trading food, knowledge of water, knowledge of and the things how to survive on the land, and you give me a damn bead? You handed us this, and we gave you 15 pounds of bison meat. Where's the comparison in that? And that's where it started, where they started to become the head, and we started to become the tail because we trusted our enemy. We were giving them all our secrets. We were showing them how to live, and they used it against us. And when they used it against us, what happened? Columbus came. This is, what website is this? Business Insider says European colonizers killed so many indigenous Americans that the planet cooled down, a group of researchers concluded. That's madness. I want to read that one more time. It says European colonizers killed so many indigenous Americans that the planet cooled down, a group of researchers concluded. That's the planet dropped in degrees after you killed 100 million people. That's crazy. It says, following Christopher Columbus' arrival in America in 1492, violence and disease killed 90% of the indigenous population, nearly 55 million people. And I've noticed that any website I go to, it shows 55, it shows 60, some show 80, some show 100. That shows you that they don't even know how many people they slaughtered. Because it happens every time. It's 55. It's always over 50 though, which is crazy. But it's 60 million, 70 million, 100 million, 80 million dead, killed by disease. But to go on forward, I just want to speak on that real quick. It says violence and disease killed 90% of the indigenous population, nearly 55 million people, according to the study published this year. Diseases like as smallpox, measles, and influenzas, which colonizers brought to the Americas, were responsible for millions of deaths. We spoke about that last lesson. And sometimes they didn't have to kill them. They just, give them a blanket or sell them something, sell them a bead with whatever on it. And we know that Esau is a vile person. But it goes from there. And another thing I wanted to touch on was the Trail of Tears. This was the beginning of us being put at the bottom as well, and the white man, I was looking up history of it as well. We didn't want to give the land up, but they were forcing us off our lands. It was a law. Of course, Andrew Jackson put it into legislation. He passed it by the Congress that our people had to move west. They lived in Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and they moved west of the Mississippi. That's a 5,000-mile walk in the dead of winter, on foot, with kids, women, pregnant women, elders. In the dead of winter in the South, you're told, not even asked, you're told, get off the land that's yours. I want it now. This is my land now. There's nothing you could do about it. You're forced to walk 5,000 miles. Just imagine that. Just imagine that the winter that we just had. All that rain, it was cold out. I can't even hold you. It was cold out. It was raining. Just imagine you have to walk from here to Washington, to Oregon, on foot. I don't even think that's 5,000 miles. But just imagine that. Through snow, through rain, kids is crying. People are dying. Somebody might die in the front and you walk by him and you barely see him because the snow is piling down. Or animals just coming and eating them off the ground when you leave. These things were happening to us and they traveled I found it absurd that 5,000 miles with children and women, and you walked from Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, all the way to the west of the Mississippi. 9 states were evacuated, 5 major tribes. The Cherokee, the Creek, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Seminole, all removed from their lands because the white man wanted it. Crazy. And this man, this devil, I don't want to call him a man, this devil is on the U.S. currency. And our brothers and sisters be flexing it on the ground. Like he didn't do a major atrocity and made the children of Israel ashamed, made them a low people, and slapped them in their face and disrespected them. And another president, I know this is the famous statue. I don't know if they took it down yet, but I was reading the article they wanted to. This is Roosevelt with our brothers on the left and right of him. This is a low state. This is being the tail. This right here, being moved from your land, walking 5,000 miles in the dead of winter, getting killed off the planet, and then they make a statue to mock us. This is being the tail. This is the epitome of being the tail.
It's one in Mexico too, where it shows the 2 indigenous brothers doing some hard labor, and then it has a Spanish man in the back with like some directions, and he's pointing like this, telling them what to do, much like Esau do the 10 tribe on the construction sites.
Yep.
And then the cold part about it is they had a Catholic priest next to him in the statue with a Bible. That's when Catholicism was pressed onto our brothers.
Madness. That's crazy. That's a hell of a statue.
And not to get too off
Get
topic,
the mic to IQ. Bring it out.
but I want to read about the Catholic Church too for my 10 tribe brothers, my
Come on, bring it
Mexicans and etc. who hold on to that Catholicism so hard. This is the history of Brazil. Before the arrival of the Europeans, the lands now that constitute Brazil were occupied, fought over, and settled by diverse tribes. The history of Brazil begins with the indigenous people. The Portuguese arrived to the land that will become Brazil April 22nd, 1500, commanded by Pedro Alvarez Cabral, a Portuguese explorer, under the sponsorship of the Kingdom of Portugal and the support of the Catholic Church.
Catholic Church got like you said earlier, the Catholic Church got a lot of blood on their hands.
Big time.
They got a lot of blood.
The Jesuit priests.
And I was talking to Ratazan. It's really hard to find information on them right now because they was burning our brothers at the stake, hanging us, killing us, all in the name of Catholicism. Crazy.
Just precept Ecclesiastes 10:7 for that statue.
Because this is I don't know if they took this statue down yet. They were talking about it. The article I was reading, they want to, but
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, verse 7.
Right.
I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
You see how the Most High is so on point? He's seen servants on horses and princes walking on the ground. We are the gods of the earth. This earth belongs to us, but since we and look, I talked about it last week, street teaching. We have to take accountability for what we did as a group of people. We sinned against our God. You know, the Lord not just going to send people for no reason. We disobeyed our Father. We didn't do as he told us to do. So the Lord sent enemies from afar to trample down upon us, a language that we didn't know, and then he sent them to us because we disobeyed our Father.
To humble us,
to call us back to him. And I always like to tell my peoples and people I work with, like, how is an all-powerful God going to punish his people? He's not going to get off the throne. What is he going to do? He's going to send other people to punish him. That's what he's going to do. He's not going to get off his throne and make an appearance on earth. The Most High God is not going to do that. Yahweh Shah, on the other hand, he's going to come and get some vengeance. But in the meantime, this is what he's going to do. He's going to send enemies to destroy us. And this is what happens. Servants on horses. Damn Edomite. And princes walking the ground. Once again, we are kings of this earth. We need to start acting like it and treating ourselves like that, treating our people like that. Because one day, I can't wait until that day, but Lord willing, we all make it to the kingdom of heaven. We can rejoice and look back upon our life and our hardships and say we did it, you know, because it's not in vain. I want everybody in this room to make it, everybody on this live to look back, getting raised up into the chariots, landed in New Jerusalem and saying, damn, we did it. You know, we finished the mission. We accomplished the mission. And that's the goal. To no longer be a servant. We want to be served. Well, I want to be served. Y'all want to be served? I definitely do. I want to kick my feet up, you know, and see him running around in the slave field. But I just want to speak on this as well. It says, the stranger that is within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. And this also goes into how we carried much seed into the field and we didn't reap nothing back from it. According in 2014, the estimate all the cotton that was made from the slave fields and everything that was generated by us, it accumulated to $6.5 billion in 2014. And I'm pretty sure it was higher. It's higher now, but just imagine you not seeing a dime of 6.5 billion. You or your family, your generation, nobody's seen it for 100, 300 years. Nobody's seen a lick of that, a dime of it. And they dingling in front of us here and there. Oh, you guys get a reparation check. One day, it'll never happen. I don't even want it. Honestly, the dollar's finna go to shit. The Lord's coming back. What we need that for? We just gonna give it right back to him? We ain't got no banks. We ain't got no businesses. What we gonna spend that money on? A lot of Jakes is finna go buy a Tom Ford, a Ferrari, a Maserati, a BMW. Give it right back to the person that benefited from our catastrophe.
Honestly, this is gonna make Jake more wicked.
For sure.
Because what happened when the EDD scam happened? Now Jake's got automatic guns now.
Crazy.
With extended clips.
Jake might buy a tank. Who knows? I mean, look. But just seeing Jake on the internet with $1,000, all hundreds, $5,000, all hundreds, like, just imagine you get deposited $1 million. Oh my God, it's over. I know I say I don't want it, but I know I'm gonna buy me something nice. Boy. I'm buying me something nice though. Keep it a buck. You got it?
So
pay off some of my debts first, but then after that,
Deuteronomy 28 and 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. So if you continue in Sirach chapter 12, verse 12, set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. So he said, you're going to remember the Most High telling you, don't mess with these heathens, and it's going to prick you and bother you every day that you taught them how to survive on this land. Help them flourish. And then he took your spot and put you on a reservation.
Man. And feed you liquor. Not even
pay you liquor for your word. Then arrest you for being drunk.
Come on now. But that's what happened to our people. Now read verse 44, please.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
So I found it interesting. I was thinking about it last night. Like a couple banks sprung up from slavery, and it's very popular banks. I was reading this article and I was surprised, and I'm pretty sure a lot of our people have these banks, and this is from the BBC News. It says the hidden links between slavery and Wall Street. So these are the banks that profited from slavery that they don't give back to the people that they made their money from. They take their money and invest it in other things to put us down even further. What was I going to read? JP Morgan. Whoa. Damn, I should have highlighted it. It says the money Southern plantations owners earned couldn't be kept under the mattress or behind loose floorboards, but it was rolling in it. The American banks accepted their deposits and counted enslaved people as assets when assessing a person's wealth. So they count the money and how many slaves you have. That's a true possession. It said in recent years, U.S. banks have made public apologies, an apology, nothing more. It says for the role they played in slavery, they just put a Band-Aid over a shotgun wound and say, oh, my bad, get over it, you good. But give me your money, though. It says in 2005, JP Morgan Chase, currently the biggest bank in the United States, admitted that two of his subsidiaries, Citizen Banks and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted enslaved people as collateral for loans. If plantations owners defaulted on loan payments, the banks took ownership of these slaves. You put up a human for collateral. That's what they was doing. You put up a human for collateral. That's crazy.
That's coming down very low.
That's coming down very low. Damn, I can't even wrap my mind around that. That's really crazy. And then they say, oh, my bad. My bad for separating your families. Your master couldn't pay the bill, so now I'm going to take you. My bad. Madness. Well, we're going to go to the next banks. It says, banks, excuse me, this is from grunge.com. It says, banks you didn't know had ties to slavery. That is Edomite. Bank of America, it earned its money from merging with enslavement. So they had a part in our slave trade. Bank of America is everywhere. I used to bank with Bank of America, but I stopped because I didn't have money in my account or enough money in my account. They would charge me $25 for not having enough money in my account. What kind of stuff is that? That shit low-key hurt me.
Every day until you pay it, right?
Not every day. That'll be madness. Maybe like what? Every week or every month, something like that. Charge me $25. Ain't no $5 or $10 fee. A $25 fee, that's tough. For a bank to charge, man, you're supposed to be holding my money. And this is also, the information how they got involved into in how they were involved in slavery. Excuse me. If you guys want to read that, there's more than over 25 banks that gained their wealth from slavery. But if you want to, it's grunge.com. Bank of America at the top. We got HSBC, profiting off of enslavement. So they had slaves. They was a part of that. Lloyd Bank Group, I think that's in London across the water. So that just shows you that slavery wasn't just in the Americas. It traveled all across the world, in Europe, in Africa, in South America, in North America, in Canada, everywhere. They got these banks off of our backs. I ain't gonna attempt to pronounce that. Look like it's in French or something.
Not to mention all the gold and the artifacts and stuff that they took on boats back to Spain.
For sure. I don't know if you heard the story, but some of them got so greedy that they sank.
Yeah, they sank because there was too much gold.
It's too much. The boats was too heavy, but that just shows you the greed. They mind was so infatuated with money and how much money, how much wealth the Israelites had. They just had to take it all, and some of them died on the way back. All praise to the Most High. Barclays, they got a team. They got not a team. They got a stadium out in New York. From enslavement to colonialism. What is that? Colonialism. Thank you. The Barclays Center, the Barclays Bank. They enslaved people and they was a part of colonialism as well. We got J.P. Morgan, Chase. Co-ownership and insurance. So they started off with insurance or co-ownership of slaves. So if your slave ran away, they were their insurance people. That's how they made their millions. That's how they made their billions.
And they reparations too when they had to free them.
Your slave ran away, we're gonna repay you. That's crazy. Your slave died in an accident, we got you. We got insurance on you. And speaking on insurance, boy, insurance. I'm gonna share my insurance. They playing games with me. They trying to charge me an arm and a leg. Boy, I ain't going for it. But we got another one, the Citibanks, on the backs of sugar workers. So that's how they made their money. On the backs of sugar workers. Royal Bank of Scotland, across the pond, as they say. And
I can say one thing for sure. It's black banks out there.
For sure.
But other nations is not walking into those banks.
For sure.
They're not getting loans from a black bank.
For sure.
Even if it's the only place they could get it from, they got too much pride to walk in a black bank and ask for money.
For sure.
So for sure, we're getting our loans from all type of heathens, and they're not patronizing our business. Just like the businesses we have. If it's anything that's black owned, I've never seen an Edomite in there, unless she cleaving to an Israelite Jade.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Facts.
But the mainstream communities of all the other nations, they're not dealing with no black banks. We're not
Sure.
lending to them at all.
Everybody of our nation is going to one of these banks. Wells Fargo's, Chase, JP Morgan, all these banks that benefited from our people's downfall, and they're lending to us, but they will never take, we like my brother Deshaun said, they will never go to one of our banks, one of our credit unions, and get money from them, get money from us. It will never happen. But the Lord said that would happen. He said, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. And then also, how can we lend to somebody when they took everything from us? How can we lend to a people when we barely have housing? Only way that we can lend to somebody, only way you can lend to somebody is if you have resources, if you have an enormous amount of money, if you have an enormous amount of resources, if you have pretty much if you have what you have, everything in the world, you can do whatever you want. You can lend to people, you can put people in debt. But when the tables flip, they're going to be coming to us for everything. And it's going to be a beautiful thing, because that usury is finna go crazy. That's all I'm going to say. Hey, Philip, yeah, bring it out.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
And the elder shall serve the younger. We know Esau came out first. So it's prophecy, and it's going to be his duty to serve us. Thus saith the Lord, in the beginning of the book. So, and I want to speak on this as well. This is from housingmatters.urban.org. And this is about mortgage rates and how we get a higher interest rate and higher mortgages compared to other people, and how certain banks can deny us, certain thing like a house loan, but they can, you can get a personal loan for $1,000, but not for no house loan. No, you can't have that, because they got to keep us in specific areas or specific demographic of wealth.
Well, see, a personal loan is going to just become debt.
Right, of course.
A house is going to become something that
could build wealth off
that appreciates and gives you money.
Exactly. An asset, like the elder said, and they can't have that. They can't let us get on top, because they can't let us get on top, because if we do, that's a slap in the face to them. That's a testament of them. We put them through all this and they still surpassed us. Redlining, of course. But I'm going to read this article. It says, mortgage firm charge higher interest rates for perceived risk factors, such as higher loans to value ratio and lower credit scores. As a result, the average Black homeowner interest rate is 33 basis points higher than the average white homeowners, and Black homeowners pay about $250 more per year in interest rates. So if they're associating us with a low credit score, perceived risk factors, and then if they do loan us, they're gonna give us at a higher interest rate, 33 point basis higher than the average white person. I should have looked that up, but that sound like some stuff. And we pay $250 more per year in interest rates than any other race. And people might say, it's $250, but that adds up.
I got something.
That adds up. Bring it out, Doc.
So this is from www.bankrate.com. There are over 4,000 FDIC insured banks, but less than 1% of them are Black owned.
And that goes back into what the Lord said. He said, he shall lend to thee. He's going to have the abundance to lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. We're not going to have nothing. We're not going to have no resources. We're not going to have no banks. We're not going to have no rainy day funds. We're not going to have nothing. We're not going to be able to lend to nobody, because we're struggling. Because we're not going to have nothing to lend. We need to be lend to. And that's the reality of our people. I know some of us are in the world, some of us could be more fortunate, but at the end of it, 90% of us is we down and bad. And I know for sure during COVID, when the lockdown happened, a lot of people lost lost work, they lost their family, they lost everything. They had to go to the white man to get that money, and he's going to charge them a 15% interest rate, a 20% interest rate. By the time you pay that $5,000, $10,000 back, you owe $4,000 or $5,000 more on top of it. And I found this to be an interesting topic, and this is my last slide. It says, what would it take to close the American black-white wealth gap? This is www.rand.org, R-A-N-D. It says, white Americans hold 10 times more total wealth than black Americans. They are 28 times more likely to become millionaires. White people. It says, a 2021 study by the Federal Reserve imagined a world in which racial wealth inequality did not exist. So they hold a 28 times more likely to be a millionaire. And it shows you that's how the gap is. It says it's estimated that black households would hold 5 times more wealth in that world than they do in the real one. Damn. So the world that they were simulating, racial equality did not exist, but in reality, it's 5 to 1. Excuse me, hold 5 times more wealth in the world that they did in the real one. This is crazy. Our people have no way to close that gap. Like the video I showed last time, when you get skipped, make an analogy, you put we're playing a game Monopoly and you get skipped 400 times. How can you win? You know, how can you win? But I'm gonna show you how we can win, because the Lord, like I said, the war is won, but we need to win the battle.
I got a little more on that.
Come on, bring
This
that up.
from Wikipedia.org. 4,000 private investors held 80% of the bank's capital, including 3,000 Europeans. The bulk of the stocks were held by a few hundred wealthy European Americans.
Time. And like I said, you got a precept for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's our fault though.
For sure.
The only thing, like, money ain't gonna save us. Obedience to the Most High through Christ is gonna save us.
Come.
And this is Jeremiah 5:25. Your iniquities have turned away these things, and your sins have withholden good things from you.
And those good things are the kingdom of heaven. Those good things are the promises and the covenant that the Most High promised to us. Not to nobody else, but he promised it to us. And I want you to, like I said last time, I want to leave on a good note to give people that positive reinforcement that the war is won, but the battle is not. We need to fight that battle. Let me get Sirach chapter 4, verse 28, please. And this is my ending precept. Lord willing, everybody enjoyed the lesson. Read that, please.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 4, verse 28.
Uh-huh.
Strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee.
The Lord says, strive for the truth until death. The truth is the law, statutes, and the commandments, believing on Christ as it is written. Read it from the top again.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 4, verse
4 and 28.
28. Strive for the truth unto death,
Uh-huh.
and the Lord shall fight for thee.
If the Lord fighting for us, who can be against us? All we got to do is strive for the truth. And that's what we're doing right now in this room. That's what our brothers and sisters is doing on the live. We striving for the truth. And if we strive for the truth, the Lord gonna fight for us. And I want to end it on that. All praise to the Most High. Lord willing, everybody was edified. And y'all have a good night. Be blessed. Come.
Hey, Salakia, to the family online. So we got our email on the screen, as you can see right there. It's posted on the screen. So we want to donate clothing. Anybody online that has little girls that's between the age of 7 to 9 and you need some clothes, email us so we can go ahead and send you some clothes. It's already fringed out, all right? It's already fringed and prepared for Israelite girls between the age of 7 and 9. Send us an email and we'll go ahead and send you some clothes. So anybody coming into the truth and you're struggling with trying to find some fringes, or you're struggling, you don't really know how to fringe the garments and stuff like that yet, we got you covered. We already got you accommodated. Hit the email We only got girl clothes right now between the ages of 7 and 10. So 7 and 10, if you got daughters between the 7 and 10, go ahead and hit the email and we'll go ahead and accommodate you for that.
Thank you again. And y'all have a beautiful night. Enjoy the rest of y'all Sabbath. Shalom.